Okay, good morning. This meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors is now called to order. And County Council, are there any additions to the agenda?
No additions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. See, at this time, we'll read closed session into the agenda, please.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Scott Cross, Deputy County Counsel. Pleasure to be here this morning. 5 items on this morning's closed session. Items 2A through 2E as listed on the agenda. I'll just go through them briefly. 2A is conference with labor negotiators. All units are up for discussion this morning, and the unrepresented employee classifications. Item 2B is conference with legal counsel existing litigation. That's the Valley Groundwater Coalition versus County of Madera case as listed on the agenda. Item 2C, conference with legal counsel, another existing litigation item. This is Joshua McMullen versus County of Madera, case number as listed on the agenda. Item 2D, conference with legal counsel, another existing litigation. This is the case Madera Community Hospital, debtor in possession. It's a bankruptcy case as listed on the agenda. And then finally, item 2E is public employee performance evaluation. This is the county administrative officer. Is there any public comment on any of those items? Now would be appropriate.
Public comment? Anyone online?
Nobody online.
Okay. I don't see anybody coming forward at this time. We'll adjourn to close session.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Just one more time.
Correction that we're not adjourning, we're moving to closed session. I used the wrong terminology. Thank you. So we have returned from closed session. County Council, is there anything to report from the closed session?
Chairman, members of the board, there's no reportable action from your closed session.
Okay. At this time, we're going to have the invocation and the flag salute. Before we do, is there anyone that you'd like to open and close in memory of? Word? No one today? Since this last day was last week was Memorial Day, let's open and close in memory of all the veterans who have served and given the ultimate sacrifice for our country. I think that's a worthy group of people, wonderful group of people, small group when you consider what so few have done for so many. And we certainly thank them for their sacrifice. Many gave some and some gave all. So we appreciate their sacrifice. At this time, we'll stand and ask Pastor Lance Beach of Valley West Christian Center to do the vocation. Following that, ask John Reed if he'd lead us in the flag salute.
Thank you. It's an honor, Chairman and Supervisors, and on behalf of the Madera Ministerial Association, it's an honor to pray for you and with you. Man. Father God, we thank you for this county. We thank you for Madera County and the blessings that it is in each of our lives, and not only these veterans, but also those that protect and serve us now. We thank you for our fire and our sheriffs and our police departments and our especially our ambulance drivers in this day and age, and all those that are so quick to respond to the needs of our community. We ask your blessings over them, their families. We thank you for the different various areas of our county, all that with their different needs and their different enjoyments and likes, the beauty of our lakes and our rivers and our agriculture and all that it possesses for this county. It's almost like we could live by ourselves right here with no one else. And we're thankful for that because you blessed us with so much. I would also like to just remember in this season, all of the graduates of our county and those that have worked so hard over these years to graduate from high school and prepare for college and prepare for armed services training, prepare for job training, skill training. Some are still questioning and wondering what to do. God, we ask for your guidance. We thank you for the thousands of graduates from the mountains to Chowchilla, the graduations that have happened, the ones that are happening this week. We thank you that you are going to bring them into their destiny. And we think that hopefully many of them will come back here and serve our community and be a blessing to Madera County. We also thank you for all the teachers who've given so much over these last months. And we pray for a time of rest, restoration, revigor them, bring in the new ones that we need for the next year. We thank you for the education, and our greatest asset, our greatest gold is our kids. And so we pray, Father God, for a season of a summer of rest for them. And again, for each of these the supervisors, God, we pray wisdom, those that are around to guide them, wisdom for them as well, blessings over their families. And each one that's here today are all here for a passionate reason. We thank you for that passion for our community and ask your blessings over it. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comment.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take any action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record.
Is there anyone here that would like to address the board under public comment? Okay, go ahead. Have you signed into the? Yeah. Go ahead this morning. Thank you.
David Paris, southeastern Madera County, here in the Lake Estates, MD1. Almost a year ago, I was here to address an issue that is very important to us, is our water. We had our systems failed. It is flat failed. I've talked to Matt and Jared, and they were very helpful this morning in supplying some additional information. But I think I need to reach out to each and every one of you to reach out to help get the state to help us expedite this. The water that we are receiving is unhealthy. It's inadequate for human consumption. It's not safe to even bathe in, yet we receive boil notices from the county, and boiling will not dissolve and just make this chemical product disappear. That's very important. It's a safety issue. With that said, we don't even have sufficient water supply for fire hydrant. If the fire insurance companies that we pay money for fire insurance found that out, they'd probably cancel us in a minute. A building moratorium was invoked by this board 14 years ago because of the inadequate water system, was unable to supply the adequate supply of water to the homes that are already existing and prevent any future building because of that water. 14 years ago, And we are here today with no zero flat improvements. Lead water distribution system, the pipes, the water pipes are lead, the joints are lead. I don't believe that's proper for today under the EPA standards. County pays a penalty because the system is not adequate every year. I don't know what the fee is, but it's a lot of money. I would think that a lot of that money, there's been a lot of grants applied for, which I don't understand what the grants were applied for in developing this new water system, but we haven't seen any progress moving forward. So I think I'm going to put it on all of you to reach out to the state to expedite this to improve our water. It's unsafe. No fire protection. We had a fire get close enough to us this last year that was traumatic. Could have just destroyed everything right down to the city. Building moratorium, I think, has kind of gotten expanded a little out of control. I understand the fact that they want to build any additional homes for the fact of water. They don't have the adequate water to supply those homes. But that building moratorium is now people that would like to build or add, modify their driveway, pour concrete, put a parking pad, build a metal canopy. They're prohibited from doing this under the building moratorium. And the building moratorium, which is on record, doesn't include that. It only includes properties with water consumption. I need for each one of you to accept the responsibility and step forward, and let's accelerate this and make it an urgent crisis. There's been grants applied for. I understand the state, it's a very slow process. It's like snails moving forward. But I think with constant gentle pressure relentlessly applied, we can maybe progress forward. We're coming up on a year and we really don't have anything to improve our water.
Refresh my name on the subdivision name.
It's Hidden Lake Estates, MD1.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
Dale Drozen. I'm a part-time resident of Madera County, part-time resident of Fresno County. The boat business directly behind my house applied for a conditional use permit. I didn't speak at the commission hearings or the board hearings when it was approved because I had a copy of the CUP. I had a copy of the CUP. I had the recommendations. I had the conditions of approval. I had the mitigated negative declaration. As long as they were followed, I had no problem with the business. But it's been a nightmare for 4 years. They have ignored all of the rules. They have been visited by code enforcement a number of times. Code enforcement was set out last week because they were running boats outside the building strictly in violation. 2 days later, they got another boat outside, very little exhaust on it, blasted into my backyard. There are a number of things that are on the conditional use permit that they just flat ignore. When the code enforcement goes out and talks to them, they don't change. Nothing's changed over 4 years. This is my backyard this morning. That's a gas pressure washer outside the building, pressure washing the engine on the back of the pontoon boat. Now, any of the water coming off of that or their boat detailing operation goes into their septic tank and into our water source. Our newest well is about 400 feet away from that. I don't know what chemicals they're using. I don't know what they're flushing out of it or off of the engines, but it happens. You know, code enforcement has been out there. Environmental health won't come out and check on the washing operation to see what chemicals they're using and which ones are dangerous from into the water supply. They have, when they got their conditional use permit, it was to repair boats and also to do fiberglass work and gel coat. They had conditions on it, there would be no odors. Their ventilation system, when they turn it on, I'm sure exceeds the legal limit for the mounted on the roof systems that's mentioned in the mitigated negative declaration. But it's built so it goes up into a cone and blows it back down directly into my backyard. When they're doing gel coating or spraying fiberglass, the inside of my house smells like a paint shop. The I've tried to be reasonable. I gave up when they had a air compressor out back that starts up every hour and a half or two because it's got a bleeder on it. They're supposed to have it inside. Code enforcement told them if they put an enclosure around it, they would consider it inside the building. So they put plywood around it. Makes no difference in the sound. It comes on every couple hours, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Can you wind it down with your time's up?
Pardon?
Can you wind it down? Your
Oh,
time's up.
okay, anyway, I asked them to put a timer on it, so it didn't come on when they're closed or to shut it off. No. I asked him to turn the boats around, so the exhaust was pointed the other direction. He said, the county says we're legal, we're not changing shit.
Hmm.
That's my wind down. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board. Mr. Chairman, Chris Childers, your Chief Probation Officer. It's
Morning.
my privilege and honor to announce the annual torch run hosted by law enforcement agencies here in Madera County will be on Friday, June 16th. We'll be starting at Courthouse Park at 7 a.m. and we'll be running through Madera with the athletes as well as members of 7 law enforcement agencies, which include Madera County Sheriff's Police Department from Chowchilla, Madera, Department of Corrections and CHP and the Madera County District Attorney's Office. So we look forward to public coming out, and when we get together at 7 a.m. in Courthouse Park, we have a good support and a following. So we will also be running through Chowchilla following our run through Madera. So we'll be ending in Veterans Park around 10:30 morning on the 16th.
Chris, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment at this time? Anyone online?
Nobody online?
Okay, great. Close public comment. The next
I-
item,
I'm sorry, Chairman, there is one public comment online.
okay.
Hello, members of the board and community members. My name is Mariela Vasquez, and I'm a resident of Madera County. I'm an ambassador for the California Environmental Voters Program, Cohort 2. The reason I'm here today is to explain and express the urgency of youth people being involved in our climate issues, specifically in our water and air quality issues here in the Central Valley, specifically Madera. Like this the first speaker mentioned, like our water issues are becoming more and more aggressive, and there's not a lot we are doing, and it's very important that youth people get involved. I chose to join the California Environmental Voters Ambassador Program because I love being involved in my community. I've been in various events that you guys have hosted when you guys were running for this seat. So I would like to come here and express how this program has impacted my knowledge about the air quality and the water quality in the Central Valley. And I'm just here to express that I feel like young people should really be involved in the California Environmental Voters. We've created a campaign called We Can, which is the Water Equity and Clean Air Now. And I'm just here to hope to get in contact with all of you guys soon because I recognize how important you are as a governing body in the Central Valley. And I believe it's critical to work with you guys. And I hope to follow up via email for a request to meet and with a letter of support. Thank you. And I look forward to working with you all.
Thanks for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Yeah, my name is Isaac Teran. Citizen of Madera, but I was wanting to know who do I speak to about the parks? Why not all the parks have drinking fountains?
This is your time to,
It's a question to you, sir.
this is your time to public
I
comment.
asked you a question though.
We don't answer questions under public comment.
Okay, so why am I wasting my time telling you that if I only have 3 minutes?
You can talk to one of our staff if you'd like.
Yeah, who would I talk to? Because I think it's be a concern to have drinking fountains, and there's a lot of other concerns too that I guess we take as hilarious, but look around what's going on. Time's changing. So if you got, those of you who pay attention to our surroundings, where am I, how many minutes?
Sir, this gentleman right here will meet you in the back
Okay.
and
all right.
ask your question.
Yeah.
Very good.
So, drinking fountains, the roads, I don't know who to speak to about that because my truck, runs over every pothole. And then continue to be more potholes, coming out. So maybe fixing some of these roads here in the town, I don't know. There's a lot more stuff, but I don't have 3 minutes. Maybe, I don't know, move it to 10 minutes or something, or pay attention to what people are telling you. Thank you for your time.
Any other public comment? I think we read the public comment that we don't make comments on public comment. It's your time to comment and we listen, try to follow up on those comments as they're made. So did anyone else have any public comment? If not, no one online?
Nobody online?
Okay, thank you. The next item would be the consent calendar. Any questions?
Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
Item 9620, 5S has been pulled from the agenda at the request of the department. I believe Dr. Paul is here and available if you have any questions. This is 5S.
So item S has been pulled.
It is being requested by the department to be pulled.
Okay. Any other items to be questioned on? I don't see any. Okay, is there any public comment on any item on the consent calendar? Any public comment on the consent calendar? I don't see any. Is anyone online?
Nobody online.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board then?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve pulling item S, please.
Okay, motion is made.
Second.
Motion made and second. Let's vote.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor Fortress.
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6A.
6A, Social Services Department, presentation and proclamation naming June 2023 as Elder Abuse Awareness Month.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, county staff, Steve Duckworth, Deputy Director of Social Services, accompanied by a social worker supervisor, Catalina Alcorn, social worker, Marlene Casares, and Department of Public Health nurse, Melanie Magalwed. We're here today to join you all to raise awareness for elder abuse awareness in Madera County. This month, communities around the country are going to be joining together to raise awareness for elder abuse in the U.S. and worldwide. There will be on June 15th is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So activities around the globe are going to be occurring on that day to raise awareness for the ever-growing problem of elder abuse. And one of the reasons, and probably the primary reason for the growth in elder abuse is because the population is aging. Every year, more and more seniors, there are more and more seniors in the segment of population compared to the other segments of the population. As fertility rates decline and people live longer, the senior populations are aging. That's occurring here. That's occurring around the world. California is typically considered a young state. We have a lot of young people here compared to other states in this country. Our country is comparatively young compared to other industrialized countries in the world, but our population is aging. And Madera County is sort of unique in this area, in our region. We have a higher percentage of elders than other counties, contiguous counties and other counties in this area. The numbers for 2023, according to the Census Bureau, these are the numbers of our elders in Madera County. And the subpopulations that are listed there are listed because those are vulnerabilities that make people vulnerable to abuse and neglect. And so those, for example, those people that live alone, elders that live alone, they're typically more susceptible to elder abuse because people aren't checking on them. People aren't, and people aren't interacting with them and checking them. This graphic displays the growing population of seniors. If you look at the green sections on these charts, you'll see that each decade, that percentage of population 60 and over is growing. And it's growing, it's a zero-sum game against the other as a piece of the pie, the whole population of the county. It's the only segment of our county population that is growing, if that makes sense. In 2022, the calendar year, these are our numbers of referrals for investigations and services to our department. If you look at the confirmed cases of abuse, 357, so it equals out to almost nearly every day we're getting a confirmed case of abuse or neglect. Currently we have 5 social workers, 2 social worker supervisors, some of which are represented here, to respond to these referrals. This is a breakdown of how the referrals are received by allegation type. You can see neglect is a big piece of it. Financial exploitation is a big piece, and then mental emotional abuse is also the third biggest piece. It's interesting to note that the financial exploitation is one of the hardest ones to detect and prevent, because a lot of times it's interstate or out of state and international actors that we have, we're not really capable of preventing it or
Totally unscrupulous.
it's very difficult to prevent. You can see the breakdown by sex at the top, female to male, and I'll note that the last 2 years we've had an 18% growth in each of those 2 years in the number of referrals coming in. There was a statutory change in the reducing the age from 65 to 60 to qualify for APS services, which contributed to part of that 18% growth, but it's still an overall growth rate, just enroll over 65 as well. These charts display the types of the abusers, but the reports by abusers. You can see that primarily over half the reports that are received are reports of abuse at the hands of relatives. And of those relatives, primarily a child of the senior, of the adult. The chart at the top of the victims by sex, in the unknown piece there is what I mentioned earlier about the financial abuse. We don't know the sex of those people that are doing those crimes against the seniors. We want to share these phone numbers, very important for the public to know. Our APS hotline to receive reports of abuse and neglect is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's the number there. There's also the Fresno Madera Ombudsman takes reports of abuse and neglect in facilities such as a skilled nursing facility, so that there's a separate number for that. And finally, we want to invite the public, seniors 60 and over, to come to an event that we're going to have on June 15th. And it's going to be here in the city of Madera at Rotary Park in the morning. We're going to offer free breakfast for the first 200 seniors. We're going to have lots of games, gifts, raffles, and we're going to have over 22 or 23, thank you. We're at 23 partner agencies will be there to provide information to seniors. And because we want to invite the whole community, if you give me a minute, I'm going to do a real quick a request in Spanish, so that I want the Spanish speaking elders in Madera County to be aware of this event. And we speak Spanish. We want them to come, and we want them to learn about the resources in Madera to support them. So queremos invitar a todas las personas de la tercera edad a un evento aquí en la ciudad de Madera el día 15 de junio a las 7:30 en la mañana. Vamos a tener comidas, bebidas, juegos, música, rifas, otras cosas. Es un evento muy divertido. So esperamos que a verles allá. So, and so I gave that in Spanish, so that I just want the Spanish speakers to feel welcome and to feel that they're going to be welcomed at that event. And so without further ado, we can do the proclamation. Our staff is here with our banner, We have signs we have a window booth out here. We thank the county staff for letting us decorate that window booth. We have our this marketing material out on the displays outside here, and we're getting the word out everywhere we can to invite people to come to this event.
Well, thank you for bringing awareness to this. Seniors are, and of course, young people are our most vulnerable population. And I know that my father has been a victim of financial abuse from outside sources, literally lost entire life savings, significant loss. I can only say, like my wife said, may they get what they deserve. That's putting it lightly. Anyway, anyone else have any comments?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Number one, thanks for providing breakfast on the 15th. And what are we having?
Well,
I'm there.
actually, we are having pancakes and we're also having burritos from two different restaurants that we're going to bring the
Score.
food in. Yeah.
Right.
Rob and I fit into this senior category, so we're both.
Steve, if you need any help with volunteers, happy to help as well.
I appreciate that.
It says it starts at 7:30, so that's like lunchtime for you, so.
As long as you're having a dessert, he won't mind. He'll eat that first. Let's go down and.
Oh, she was Veronica Diamond.
Yeah. Item
Did you ask for?
6. Oh, yeah. Do we have any public comment on item 6A?
We do have somebody online, just one moment.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Okay, I just had a quick question on the elder abuse thing. It looked like from the graph that the neglect and the financial exploitation were the greatest. The question I have, especially with the rise of AI and the deep fake and the scams that are being done, are you actively pursuing any kind of a program or education on how to spot the financial exploitation and some of the AI deep fakes that are happening out there?
I'll let our director of social services handle that question.
Okay, hello, Deborah Martinez, Director of Social Services. So specifically regarding AI, that's a very new field, but it's very much the way that everything that has been happening electronically. They may or may not be using bots or whatever else, but the reality is it's still electronically done. The fraud that's being done where we can't indicate whether the person's male or female because it's something that's happening out of the country, some kind of electronic funds. We withdraw that it's fraudulent. We really are working with our DA, working with law enforcement. There's only certain amount of access we have for court for bank records. There's a lot of laws that keep us from knowing some information. So I know there's lots of legislation that's coming by to provide us more latitude to be able to access those kinds of information about what's happening on the banking end, to be able to try and trace who the culprits are, whether they're using AI or not. But it is a very difficult thing to prove.
Yeah, I see the DA coming forward here to also answer a part of that question. So Deputy DA,
Well, technically, I am the acting DA
Yeah.
as your elected
There
DA
you
is out of the state currently. But I
right?
wanted to come up and say that we do have very good relationships with our law enforcement agency partners, sheriff, the PDs, even CHP, and then working with Director Deborah Martinez and her group as well. Sally Moreno, our elected DA, who will be back in about a week or so, just did a presentation at a senior group. Can't remember if it was YLP or another group but it was definitely on the east side.
Right.
And one of the things I wanted to mention is, first of all, she did do that, and she does have a presentation that she's happy to provide. If you're aware of any group that may want to have her come do that presentation, or maybe somebody else from our office as well, we're happy to do that. Just please reach out and let us know.
Thank you. It's very informative. Good information.
From the acting DA.
Yes, from the acting DA.
John, in response to your question, I just say it's an ongoing education. And so, the more times we can get seniors to come out and engage in activities like Rob's, I think, activity next Monday or whenever that was, that's when we take advantage and we educate those folks on the risks and those sorts of things. So.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
And I know there have been, if I may,
Go ahead.
Chairman, there have been instances specifically about AI where people will mimic other people's voices, and they will do ransom phone calls for elderly. So it'll appear as if their grandson is calling them saying that they're in dire need, and there's some sort of ransom, and go to the store and buy 6 $500 Target cards and turn them over. So, that's how those types of things are happening. So it is an educational thing, and the more you can get in front of those people and just educate as much as you can. I have heard of little card handouts that people will put on cell phones or near a home phone of an elderly person. Basically just a quick reminder, hey, if this person is asking for money, call X or something like that. Just another awareness tool for seniors, because it just happens all too often. And they are typically the people who have a nest egg, and that makes them a very, very vulnerable victim.
Very sad indeed. Thank you for that comment. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll go to item 6B.
6B, recognition of the 2023 Old Timers Day Parade King and Queen, Steve and Nadine King, Grand Marshal Jim Bryan.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Rob Poitras, one of your county supervisors, and it's my honor and pleasure to make the introduction of this year's King and Queen, as well as the Grand Marshal for the Old Timers Week celebration. Many of you are maybe new to Madera and are not aware of the Old Timers Week celebration. And it's something that has been going on for quite a few years. In fact, does anybody know what year celebration this is? I'll give you a hint. Last year's was the 91st. Okay, there you go.
92.
Somebody from Chowchilla got it. All right, good. Excellent. Brilliant. So, and every year we have a king and queen as well as a grand marshal that we like to honor for various reasons, things that they have done. To qualify as a king or queen, you have to have lived in Madera County for 50 years, I believe. Is that true, Randy, and all you experts? Okay, yeah, Sharon. Right. So, yeah, so people have had to be here for quite a few years, but also qualified because of many things that they have done for the community, and not because they are looking to earn points to be the king and queen. In fact, most of the time when people are selected as king and queen, they're shocked. They're humbled. It's kind of like, well, I don't qualify. I'm not old enough, number one. So, but this year's king and queen are the kings. So I would like to ask Steve and Nadine to join me up here, and I just have a few things I'd like to say, and then I'll hand the microphone over and you can make some introductions. There's a few folks that I see that have joined you here today that there might be a family resemblance. I don't know, something. So some people I've known for a long time too. So the Kings came here separately. They haven't always been married. Steve arrived in Madera in 1966, started working for United Vintners, and then he went into his own business, Steve's Wrought Iron, in 1970. So he's been involved in that since that time, and you can see his works all over the community. His shop is out east of Madera on 145. But he's definitely a giver and a doer. He's something that he was involved in recently. He was up in the Fairmead area and he noticed this little orange on the ground. And he said, what is this? And then somebody told him, well, that used to be the mammoth orange. And he goes, well, how did it get so small? He says, well, the juice ran out. So Steve said, I'm going to make sure that gets back. So he and a team from Rotary worked on it incessantly, and now it's ready back in its old glory. Now it just needs an operator. So if anybody knows an operator who wants to, make hamburgers and hot dogs and things like that, and orange juice, then it's ready to roll. But Steve and Nadine have really made a lot of great contributions. Nadine has been an educator and been involved in Campfire and many, many other activities. And so they're very humble, very quiet, but they get the job done. They're the real deal. And also they have 4 kids and 9 grandchildren. And I want to hear more about Thomas the Train. Steve built a replica of the train and for his kids to enjoy. So with that, Steve and Nadine, I'm going to hand the microphone over to you and ask you to maybe identify a few people that you'd like to introduce.
Thank you very much. This has been really an honor. Excuse my voice, but you already met my wife, Nadine, my son, Brian, here. Next to him is my mom, Mary, and my daughter, Lori. Then you got Dan Riley, a friend of mine that everybody knows Dan, some beer.
Hey.
And then Randy Berry, and everybody knows his wife real well. She's Cheryl Berry, one that makes the best cookies in town. Then Sparky Phelps, he is the best horseshoer around, but he hung it up and he's retired now, but we've been good friends for a long time. So
Very good. And in typical Steve style, he's saying, well, if I'm going to be the king and Nadine's going to be the queen, who's going to run the parade? That's what he was thinking about, so Steve, we'll take care of that. So anyway, again, always thinking about, getting the job done. So not surprising. Thank you so much. So next I'd like to ask to join me are the Bryans. Actually, it's Jim. All right. All right, good. She's not here. Okay, Jeannie, because she's the real power behind this guy. So, so Jim is a guy that, like Steve, I've known for a long, long time. And Jim and I spent many years in the Kiwanis Club together and also working on the parade. And again, Jim is one of these guys that is just a doer, a worker, so humble, never looking for any praise or anything like that. He's a musician. He used to help us out in Kiwanis Club when we opened up with our patriotic song, God Bless America. Everybody else is off key. He and his brother are always on key. So we want to thank you for that. He and Jeannie live on Yosemite Avenue. They're the people with all the lights in their house during Christmas time. And when they flip the switch, that's when the power grid, starts. They have to go onto nuclear power or something to back up Madera. He also has an elevator in his house. So how many of you guys have elevators in your house? He's got one. So it's from a long, long time ago. So but he plays guitar at St. Joachim's and any other parish where he is. So he also donated the parade audio equipment for future generations of parade folks. But again, a real doer. So Jim, is there anything you'd like to share at this time? Nothing about me.
You haven't changed, Bob. I'm sorry my wife isn't here. She's actually in Germany right now, visiting one of my sons, and it's a confirmation. One granddaughter is a sponsor for another granddaughter. So anyway, and I have 6 kids and 13 grandkids. So anyway, all is well, and I thank you for the honor.
Excellent. Well, very good. Well, what I like to do is to ask everybody to join us here. I like to ask my colleagues, if you like to have any of your family join you, that'd be great. I think it'd be great to have your mom up here at a minimum. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to go to item 6D. Got people waiting on that one. We'll go to item 6D and we'll come back to the others later.
6D, presentation and update from the Madera County Mosquito and Vector Control District.
There's also a presentation with that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Trinidad Reyes. I'm the operations supervisor for the Madera County Mosquito and Vector Control District. Today, I'm going to give a presentation on a public awareness presentation and try to show you guys which direction we're going with the Madera County Mosquito and Vector Control District. Is this going to broadcast? So this is Madera County. Madera County covers about 714 square miles. The Madera County Mosquito Abatement District covers about 714 square miles of the overall Madera County. The district is broken up into 11 zones. Virtually everything in orange has no vector control. Vectors that we know are in the orange area include mosquitoes, ticks, and kissing bugs. The Madera County Mosquito Abatement provides mosquito fish and public awareness to this area out of a courtesy. But residents in these areas consistently call us to try to treat their water sources. But we don't go over there for treatments, but we do provide fish. So here's our district broken up into the 11 zones. Here is a map of all the inspections that we do throughout our district. You can see in red is agriculture, yellow is public, green is industrial, purple is domestic, and black is natural. Everything in the city of Chowchilla and Madera in yellow is going to be the street gutters or ponding basins, but we try to hit those regularly. This is what the city of Madera looks like with all the inspections that we do. And you could see all of the red dots surrounding the city, which indicate the agriculture that consistently breeds around the city. So we're governed by the health and safety codes. And in the health and safety codes, they describe what a public nuisance is, and it could be any of these three definitions. I'll just read the second one, and it says any water that is a breeding place for vectors, the presence of vectors in their developmental stages in the water is prima facie evidence that the water is a public nuisance. That's a pretty broad definition. Now I'll talk about issues and the status of these issues that we've been dealing with for the past couple of years. The PG&E utility vaults that are spread throughout the residential areas of Madera and Chowchilla consistently hold water every year. And for 4 years, we've essentially developed a program to treat these regularly. And in the past 2 years, we've treated them twice a year. So that issue is pretty much taken care of. And we're probably the only district who's in California who's consistently hitting these things. Everybody else is having problems dealing with issues getting access to these vaults. School sites in Madera County, in our district, we've developed an integrated vector management program for the schools. There's a Healthy Schools Act that determines how a school expresses what kind of chemicals that they use. And they essentially all have an integrated pest management program. And we essentially worked with the DPR to develop an integrated vector management program that only focuses on vectors. And we're happy to say that majority of the schools in our district have adopted this IVM policy. City and county ponds are treated routinely. So this is probably the easiest thing on our list that I have to take care of, and that's always taken care of every year. Sewer treatment plants, they're treated routinely. The sewer treatment in Parkwood is probably the only one where we have problems with, but that one's been pretty good leading up to this season, really kicking off. Drainage inlets in the city, they're treated routinely. They're sprayed every week, but the city drains need to be cleaned more regularly. If there's a lot of trash and debris inside these drainage inlets, our chemical just isn't effective. So we would have to double up our workers to hit these drains for them not to breed mosquitoes. And we're going out and checking these drains now, even with treatment, and there's probably 5,000 mosquitoes in one that breed in any of these drainage inlets that breed mosquitoes. And each one of these mosquitoes that breed in these drainage inlets are all the vector for West Nile. So that's throughout the whole city and pretty much any place that has a drain on the corner of a residential area. So that's not really taken care adequately. In terms of the city and county drains, the lids are sort of an issue for us, but that's not a big issue, but we would like those to be fixed more routinely. And then the infrastructure connecting drains is also breeding mosquitoes. So we could hit the drainage inlets easily just by driving by, checking them, and spraying into them. But any pipes that connect those two drains and the whole system overall is going to hold, if there's a gap of air and there's water, it's going to breed mosquitoes. But we don't have a real effective way of hitting those mosquitoes. Now, irrigation districts are inadequately covered. We have, I think, at least 5 different irrigation districts in our district, and they have countless miles of canals that cut through the county. And when the water becomes stagnant inside these canals, they all are going to breed mosquitoes. So we don't have a good solution for this just because we're limited to manpower, but that's going to be an issue we'll tackle in the near future. So natural creeks are inadequately covered just because how many there are and how long they are. And there's not an easy way to take care of them. That's just something another thing we have to deal with. The San Joaquin River is similar to that. It's so big and long. With the excess water that we have, there's going to be a lot of vernal pools that build up. So that's definitely going to breed a lot more mosquitoes. And with all this extra water within the rivers and the creeks, that's just going to provide more grounds for mosquitoes to breed in. And it's kind of a double whammy when it comes to these natural sources, because this is where all the birds go to. And so if there's a lot of birds in the area where there's a lot of mosquitoes, that's how you get West Nile transmission within our county. So I'll move on to agriculture. Agriculture is heavily covered, but even if at the status that it's covered at, it's still inadequate. Similar to the natural sources, agriculture holds a lot of birds. A lot of birds go into the orchards and roost. They move from orchard to orchard and they'll come into the city. So if an orchard has a lot of breeding activity within it, it's gonna be a multiplier for West Nile. And all of that is pretty much north of Chowchilla and between Chowchilla and Madera, and all of those birds pretty much come through the city and come into the residential areas. So growers and land management companies are required to abide by the health and safety codes. They should ensure that a minimal to no amount of ruts gather water within their fields. They should ensure their water delivery systems are intact, which could be their drip systems, and flood irrigation shouldn't stand longer than 4 days. They should ensure that they don't water on top of water. And 4 to 5 days is the general rule of thumb. If you don't allow water to stand for 4 or 5 days, you're not going to have mosquitoes. There's certain instances where a farmer can't get away with that, but we try to work with those types of instances. And really responsible land management is required within our district. Growers will be taken through the abatement process if they don't correct their issues. And essentially whoever is identified as a public nuisance will go through the abatement process. So to try to help out, we've developed an integrated vector management program or policy for agriculture, which is based off of the school IVM policy that we worked out with the Department of Pesticide Regulation. And it essentially just describes what an integrated vector management policy is, what we do, and what the growers should do to try to mitigate any of the mosquitoes. And on the bottom left-hand corner of that little grid, you could see that the 2 species that we're targeting when we're dealing with agriculture is Culex quincke fasciatus and Culex tarsalis. Those are the 2 main vectors for West Nile and St. Louis encephalitis. And we get, on average, 1 to 4 people coming down with severe symptoms of West Nile and St. Louis encephalitis, and maybe 1 to 2 people every year will die of it. The CDC says that if one person is contracting or showing symptoms and goes to the hospital with West Nile or one of these diseases, probably 8 people around them are getting it, and they're just asymptomatic. So we've already notified the Farm Bureau and encouraged them to inform the growers of Madera to implement this integrated vector management policy. The Ag Department has been notified of our integrated vector management policy goals, and the UC Cooperative Extension should be encouraged to set standards and practices that carry out this integrated vector management policy. Proper adoption and execution of this IVM will help protect the public health and save growers from fines expressed in the health and safety codes. So all land management companies will be encouraged to adopt these IVM policies. We've already mapped out all of the land management companies by and sorted them out on a map and overlaid all of their properties with our inspections. We're in the process of grading each field in the district. We're going to go from a grading process from A, B to C, and C being the worst, A being we don't really have to deal with it. And we've been dealing with these issues for as long as I've been here, for over 10 years. And I know that all the fields that are an issue have been identified probably for 20, 30 years. So we're going to try to get this taken care of in the next 2 or 3 years. We'll determine which fields need to go through the abatement process, and owners determined to be public nuisances will be fined up to $1,000 a day if they fail to abate their issues, as described in the health and safety codes. So that goes on from agriculture into Another big issue in the city, which is, or in residential areas, is the lawn drains. Lawn drains provide a major network for an invasive species of mosquitoes called Aedes aegypti. They bite all hours of the day and night, and they're predominantly a container breeding mosquito. So they're gonna breed inside containers that hold water. This could be dog bowls, this could be flower pots, vases, and they predominantly want to bite on humans. They don't really like to feed on birds or anything else. They will, they're opportunistic, but they like to feed on humans. They infest all of Madera. Pretty much everywhere we go, we could find this mosquito if people have containers. All of the Central Valley has it, and a good chunk of California overall has it. They spread many diseases. I think I read it's over 50 diseases, and a lot of them are hemorrhagic viruses, which means you bleed out of everywhere. They're considered an entomological warfare tool. Since the 50s and the 60s, they essentially did studies on them to determine how well they could be utilized in any scenario in combat, and we have them everywhere. So we've already addressed one of their breeding networks with the PG&E vaults. They were breeding heavily in PG&E vaults. That's why we focused on these vaults as hard as we could and took care of that one source. And our main goal to take care of Aedes aegypti is to remove all the networks of breeding sites that they have within the city that were built into the foundations. These vaults have been known about since the 70s, and luckily we got them taken care of just recently. So we're going to carry out a study this year to assess the corrective measures for these lawn drains. We picked 90 homes that we're going to target for this study. 45 homes are going to be set with traps to monitor them for 2 months. Lawn drains will be sampled for breeding weekly. They'll be systematically capped. It'll probably take us a month to cap all 90 homes in stages. And we're currently working on getting all of the homeowners' approvals right now. And we're going to carry this study out with UC Davis. And the results that we find with this study will be published in the Mosquito and Vector Control Association of California. And we'll also, if it's successful, which I'm pretty sure it will be, we'll cite it, the study, and apply for a grant from the Department of Pesticide Regulations, which was like $500,000 last time I checked. And we could use all that money to essentially cap all the lawn drains within the residential areas. If we eliminate lawn drains, we'll effectively remove all major networks of breeding sites for Aedes aegypti that have been built into the foundation of residential areas. If we do that, it'll leave us only residential bred sources to deal with. And so that could be, like I said, flower pots, fountains, bird baths, clutter, dog bowls, anything that holds water. But if you have a network of breeding sites for mosquitoes, say over 90 homes, all 90 homes are going to probably have mosquitoes. If you get rid of the network of mosquitoes, only the people who have the miscellaneous sources are going to have mosquitoes and their neighbors. So it's going to be a lot easier to find where those are at if you get rid of the network first. So with that, we will also aggressively target all outlets of public awareness. We'll leverage as much interagency relationship and public outreach as possible. We'll approach private businesses to inform the public, attend all functions that Madera residents frequent. These could be the fairs, parades, and extravaganzas. We're targeting newspapers and news outlets, print, TV, and radio. We give presentations to neighborhoods, city councils, board of supervisors, and social media platforms. We're currently hitting those pretty hard with Facebook, Nextdoor, and Instagram. We just got access to the Nextdoor account. That's a public health Nextdoor account, which gives us access to 27,000 residents in Madera. So that's a perfect outlet for us. And with this public awareness, we already know no one likes mosquitoes. So we pretty much have as much support as possible from the public. The public is already on our side. And the only thing that could really hamper these goals is funding and political will. And since it's related to public health, we don't really see that that's going to really happen. And so with that, we'll take any questions.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any public comment on this item? Public
I
comment?
do have one comment, Mr. Chairman. I do
That's
have a
okay.
comment.
Go ahead.
Trinidad, the area that you are studying, if I'm correct, it's District 4, correct?
Yes, right.
That's all.
Oh, thank you.
We also have a presentation for one of your employees. Prado?
Right.
Teresa, would you like to come up?
Okay. So we're here today to just recognize Gabino. He just retired with us May 31st. And he's been with our company for about 5 years. He's actually been there as long as I have. We started at the same time. But Gabino played a key part in our fish pickup program, providing free mosquito fish to the communities in need as far as Oakhurst and Mariposa. He helped the district transition from IPACs to the I can't read this, international recognized art gifts program to help record all mosquito sources throughout the district. He helped the district transition from flip phones to smartphones, learning both Samsung and iPhones, troubleshooting all phone and application issues along with in-house computers and printers. He also has a major help picking up slack in the front office, taking phone calls, assigning and sorting service requests from the public, helping solve any mosquito issues with the residents, both English, Spanish speaking in Madera County and Chowchilla. Gabino has also played a key role in his success in training. He showed great patience and took time needed to ensure the position he was leaving behind was within good hands. As a result, his replacement received the training he needed to succeed in his new position. So we started succession training about a year when we knew he was going to retire, and he just got him to where he needed to be. It really meant a lot to Gabino to leave the position to somebody he knew would be able to take care of us. So.
Well, great. Let's go down and
Mr. Chairman, I
Go
just
ahead.
have one comment. I understand that, okay, Gabino was there 5 years, and so that would be like 2017, 2018.
Uh-huh.
You were still using flip phones back in 2017, 2018? I didn't know you could buy them back then. Interesting. Okay,
Yes.
just wanted to point that out.
let's all go down and
In the last 5 years.
congratulate him. That's all right. Okay, I think we had a public comment on the previous part of this presentation, so I'm going to allow that at this time. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, on the mosquito abatement thing. What, if any, programs do we have up in the mountains here, like around Oakhurst, Awani, North Fork, things like that?
I think he mentioned in the presentation that they don't have any up there. Go ahead.
Right, yeah, there's currently no service out there. We've been thinking about how service would even look out there because it couldn't be taken care of the same way we take care of our district just because of type of sources that you guys have out there. We'd have to go up north and see what more mountainous districts, how they take care of their area. But currently, there is no service out there. Just fish.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other public comment? Okay, if not, let's open our public hearings at this time. We'll go to the public hearings. And item 7A.
Item 7A, Community and Economic Development Department, Planning Division, hearing to consider an adoption of a resolution approving negative declaration NP 2023-01 for the application of rezone CZ 2022-007 Oakhurst, which has been prepared in compliance with the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA. Number 2, hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance approving a rezone CZ 2022-007 from RRS-10 residential rural single-family -10 acre district to PDD Plan Development District to meet the standards for the clustering established by Awani Nipawasi Area Plan. The property is owned by Richardson, Shirley Ann, Marlene J. et al. Is located on the north side of Highway 29, approximately 0.1 miles east of Harmony Lane, 40603 and 40611, Highway 49, Oakhurst. Size 72.12 acres, APN 055-162-005 and 055-190-016.
Good job reading all that. Okay. Staff?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, board members of the public. Jamie Bax with Community and Economic Development. I also have Annette Kephart here with me, a planner who processed this project. So as mentioned before you is a rezone of a property in the Awani area. We did prepare a negative declaration in conformance with the California Environmental Quality Act. And the project is located on the north side of Highway 49, approximately a half mile east of Harmony Lane in Oakhurst. The general plan currently is AR, which is agricultural, rural, residential. And also the area plan designation designates this as agricultural residential. There is a 10-acre minimum as per the general plan designation. The Awani area plan actually allows what the proposal is to allow for clustering. The zoning does show the property as zoned currently residential rural single family is a 10-acre district with the proposal rezoning this property to a planned development district. This is a site plan. The site plan actually stems from a lot line adjustment application that the property owner is pursuing. So if the rezone is approved, we will continue the processing of the lot line adjustment. The next slide actually shows a zoomed in area. As you can see there are existing houses on the property. Currently 2 parcels will remain 2 parcels. There will be no increase in the parcel numbers there. And then an open space buffer per the area plan requirements when you use the density allowances. Again, this is a rezone of the entire 2 parcels, 72.12 acres from RRS 10 to the planned development district. It's actually section 5.2 of the Awani area plan that outlines the density averaging and the clustering and how to implement that. And again, the rezone will allow for the lot line adjustment to proceed. There is approximately 5.37 acres that will be designated as open space, and a covenant will be recorded to allow for that to remain as open space. We did circulate the application to internal and external departments for comments. We only received comments from internal agencies and applied those to the project. This item was heard by the Planning Commission on April 4th, and they did recommend approval of the rezone. And with that, we're available for any questions.
Okay, any questions? I don't see any. I'm going to open the public hearing this time. Anyone to speak for or against the proposal? You come to the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Supervisors. John Reed speaking for the property, excuse me, the property owners. The actual property owners, this is a application to settle an estate from some long-standing Madera County families. The Murrays and the Rosascos are the current actual owners. The names you've forgiven us were some other parts of the family that have those parts of the estate have been settled out. And so this is the last act to settle it and allow the Murrays to keep a place there to live and the Rosasco to use the rest of the remaining property for his cattle operations. And so in order to do so, we had to go through this rezoning process in order to be able to create the small enough parcel to actually settle out the estate equitably. So with that, unless there's any other questions, that's the purpose of the application.
Okay. Questions? Thank you. Anyone else to speak for or against the proposed rezone? I see no one. Anyone online?
Nobody's responding online.
Okay. So we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
A
Motion
second.
made. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's vote.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamha?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Chairman Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7B.
7B, Public Works Engineering Services Division, discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution approving increases in solid waste collection rates by the county's franchisees and increase to tipping fees for disposal of the Fairmead landfill and North Fork Transfer Station.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Jared Carter with Public Works here. I have with me also Scott Cross from our county council, as well as Matt Trever, our Chief Development Services. We also have online our consultants, Terry Boveri from Raftellus and John Carlton from HDR. And last but not least, our mountain hauler in the audience here, Madco. So this item before you is our annual adjustment to our solid waste rates for the fiscal year 23-24. Included in the packet is the resolution that sets forth the rate adjustments for the varying fees and costs. Exhibit A and B represent the hauler rates adjustments based on the CPI and fuel index, consumer price index and fuel price index adjustments in the contract, as well as accounting for the proposed tipping fee noted in Exhibit D. Exhibit C shows the adjustment for our landfill and Norfolk transfer station rates, which will be adjusted at 4% based on the consumer price index. And I would note that the CPI increase is actually 5.96%, but we are limited to a 4% increase on those fees by resolution. And then lastly, the Exhibit D is the adjustment to the franchise contract hauler tipping rates, which are both our mountain and our valley franchise haulers pay, and gets incorporated into the rates, which are reflected in Exhibits A and B. I would note that all these rates were provided to the Auditor Controller's office and reviewed and concurred with by their office. We also have in the packet included is the cost of service analysis for those rates, which Raftellus performed and was posted and published for the public to review and have access to. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? No questions at this time. I'm going
Jared,
to
real quick, I apologize.
go ahead.
Yeah. Jared, are you able to let us know, and I apologize if I missed it, what this translates to as an increase in cost for, I guess, residents in the various areas?
Sure. Yeah, so just again, the differences are included in exhibits A and B for the different franchise areas, but just to give you a kind of a snapshot of the basic trash service for residents. So in the mountain area franchise area for Imadco, the cost increase is approximately 64 cents, so about 1.4%. And that's for weekly service. For recycling, weekly service for waste, and then I think biweekly for recycling. And then in the Valley franchise areas, it's approximately about a 5.5% increase to the rates for the various zones. And again, there's different zones in the Valley area for their location, and then also whether or not they're in a planned district, which would be like Riverstone and Tesoro Viejo.
Yes, go ahead.
Just one moment. I'm sorry.
I can't hear you.
Your mic's
Okay,
not
go
on.
ahead. We're good.
About now. Oh, there we go.
Okay, there we
Just
go.
to expand, because Jared did provide the Imadco increase of 64 cents a month. On the Red Rock increases, it ranges from $1.79 increase a month in that zone 1, and then the maximum in the Riverstone and Tesoro Viejo communities of $3.14 a month increase is what the CPI and indice increases represent to the residents. That's
Okay, thank you. Any question? Go ahead.
Yeah, so this CPI caps out at 4%, correct? As far as for rate adjustment?
So the CPI caps out at 4% for the landfill and North Fork transfer station rates.
I got you.
There is no cap on our tipping fee rate for the haulers. That is adjusted by the full CPI. So that one is adjusted by the 5.96% or roughly 6%. But the actual gate fees or fees that people pay at the gate for the transfer station and the landfill are capped at 4%.
Okay, any further questions?
No questions. Just quick comment. I just want to
Yeah.
thank Jared for all his work on
Go ahead.
solid waste. Seems like you're always doing something new over there, whether it's Little Hoover Commission or trying to do your best to keep rates down. So I appreciate all your efforts and all your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
At this time, I'll open the public hearing on this item, 7B. Any public to comment on this item?
Chairman, I'd like to mention that on June the 5th, 2023, the clerk's office received a written public comment on item 7B 9654, from Dan Metz. Copies were provided to the board. They're also on the website, and copies are here on the dais if anybody would like them. And I believe Dan is online and would like to comment.
Okay, so the item is in the record. And anyone on, you said online? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. This is Dan Metz in Oakhurst. I just want to comment on the refreshing rain that we had last night unexpectedly. I was needing to get up in the middle of the night and go out and cover up things, but I slept too hard, so I didn't do that. Listen, I'm a bit disappointed in the proposal and the lack of responsiveness of staff to the issues that we've been raising for over a year. I'll restate those issues here to keep them fresh in everyone's mind and to get them on the record. First of all, this proposal continues to undercharge outside haulers as low as $22 a ton, while overcharging counties' franchise haulers $68 a ton, a $46 difference, which is ultimately paid by county resident subscribers. They, the outside haulers, are filling up our dump at our expense. And that's a quote from Tom Wheeler several years ago. The $22 has been in place and fixed at that level for many years, while rates for the county users continue to rise. Secondly, is the county still continues to overcharge on the franchise fee, essentially a tax on a tax. Thirdly, they do not display residential rates by component as requested. We've asked for and suggested, for example, broken down by hauler's direct charge, the fuel surcharge, the tipping fee, and the franchise fee. Certainly, that would make it a lot easier to see what the subscribers are paying and the franchise fee component, including the tipping and franchise fees. And fourthly, the county is not permitted to operate the solid waste program as a for-profit center or a for-profit operation. It is simply a service. We can't tell until we see the budget. But if they are not crediting 100% of the franchise fee to solid waste, then the county is profiting, and that is an illegal tax. There is no evidence that we've seen so far that that practice has changed. Perhaps we'll see that in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments? Anyone else online?
Nobody else online.
Not, I'm going to close the public hearing. Bring it back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Motion made.
A second.
What motion made in second? Let's vote.
Supervisor Poitras.
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh.
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley.
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
The vote passes 5-0.
Item 6C.
6C, Behavioral Health Department. Mental Health Services Act Plan. Presentation of the 3-year Mental Health Services Act Plan for fiscal year 2023-2026. Discussion and consideration to adopt the Madera County Mental Health Services Act 3-year plan. Discussion and consideration to approve to authorize Behavioral Health Services Director in conjunction with the County Auditor Controller to sign the program and fiscal accountability certificates and forward the 3-year plan to the Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission.
Chairman, members of the board, I would also add that inadvertently, the backup to this item was left off online. It is here for the public. It's available if anyone would like it from the clerk of the board's office, and there are copies here for you supervisors. It could have been that it was a little bit too big and didn't upload properly, but again, it's available for you and members of the public for this item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, real quick question before
Yeah.
we get started. Is this document going to be available online as well? I would imagine.
It's
already available.
Yeah,
Okay, I
it's
thought
at
so.
the behavioral health.
Yeah, we have a public, yeah, it's on our
Perfect.
website.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
morning.
Yes, Supervisor, sorry, Director Peraza. It'll also be online on the clerk of the board's website as part of the agenda packet cleanup.
Yeah, and we have hard copies in our offices. Good morning, Connie Mora Presa, Director of Behavioral Health. Thank you, Chairman Rogers and members of the board. We are here to be transparent to the public. And also we are required that you approve our plan. Every 3 years, we are required to submit a community-driven based on needs on behavioral health to the Department of Healthcare Services. So we are presenting here to you our 2023-2026, as it was noted. Every year, we also are required to do an annual update. With some of the changes that are being discussed at the state, you may see us sooner to come up with an annual update. But today, we are here to present the plan where it stands by do whatever it takes to help our community get well, healthy with regards to mental health and or substance abuse issues, all ages, all communities. So I'm very proud and honored. I'm going to have Mirabel Navarro, BHS Division Manager of Substance Abuse and Justice Involved Programs, and she's been our lead with this MHSA plan process, and Aaron Garcia, who will do a presentation. He's our fiscal manager. We will definitely have time for questions if the time allows. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Good morning, members of the board and chairman. I am Arabella Navarro, like Connie mentioned. I'm the Substance Abuse Disorders Division Manager and also oversee the different justice involved programs. I'm going to go ahead and present to you our MSSA 2023-2026 Community Processing Plan. Go ahead and move forward. So first, we want to go ahead and embrace our mission and vision and core values. Our department is devoted and dedicated to serving the community members of Madera County. We currently hold 4 locations. We have one in Oakhurst, Chowchilla. We have 2 locations here within the city limits of Madera. And we have some dedicated and devoted staff to be able to serve anyone that has a substance use or mental health disorder here in our community. We do have a crisis and centralized access line that's open 24 hours, 7 days a week. The phone number is 559-673-3508. And anyone that is currently facing a crisis, whether it's mental health or substance use related, we encourage them to contact our centralized and access line to receive services. Again, that is a 24-hour, 7 days a week, 365 days a year centralized line. So the MHSA overview consists of a plan that we have to basically develop and revise every 3 years. Every annual plan is updated with any kind of revisions dedicated to what the community input that we received. During this process, it was very enlightening to me because I am new to mental health and substance use. Overseeing the MHSA plan. So it was very interesting to get the feedback from the community that we've heard in the previous years and how we can plan it moving forward and how our department can devote different services or update or revise or encourage the community to give us that feedback so we can provide the services that need to be provided. Our main focus on the MHSA plan is the general standards, which is community collaboration, culture competency. It's client driven. It's very family driven. So it's a wellness and recovery and resiliency and integrated services experience. So we need everybody's input, not only yourselves, but all the community members in order to make this plan be successful in the near future. MHSA is formed of 5 different components. Our largest component is a community service and supports, which is 76% of the funding that we receive from the state. The next section is the prevention and early intervention. This is where a lot of our prevention methods come in place. We put in different practices. We form different programs. I'll touch base a little bit about some of our PEI programs that we have going in this plan. And then 5% is funded to our innovation projects. This is where we receive information from the community about different projects that they've seen or they would like to develop or create within our county. Our workforce education and training funding is a little bit of our funding that receives from HSA and also our capital facility and technology needs. So the 5 components of the MHSA build this program and build this plan forward. We dedicate a lot of our efforts into the community service and support. So those are services that basically help our full service partnerships. They help our severely mentally individuals and community members. This is where we are very client-centered based. So we want to make sure that the clients receive the services. This is like the transportation. This is how some of the funding is also included in housing, but these are the direct services that we provide. Prevention and early intervention, those are a lot of the workshops, education components, a lot of our outreach and engagement. We are forming a lot of outreach and engagement to our homeless population. And our innovation projects, that comes from the community. So we want to receive innovation projects into our department. So anyone that has a certain idea or concept that they would like to see developed or created here in our department and to serve our community members, that's when we'll receive that input. The workforce education and training that helps support our diverse cultural mental health care system. So we want to build our workforce so that the people that come in the door look like the people that are serving them. We want to make sure that our staff are fully equipped and aware of diversity and inclusion measures. That way we don't face any consequence in the future. Our capital and facilities and technological needs, that's our infrastructure that builds up our different departments, our different divisions and units. It also helps us build our electronic medical system that we're looking to receive in the near future, and also to build any kind of infrastructure needs that we need. Let me know if I'm talking too fast. So during the MHSA planning process, we held various different workshops. This plan is, it requires us to do a 3-year plan and an annual update, but it requires a lot of various stakeholders inputs and meetings. So we do focus groups, we do one-on-one discussions. We come here to the board and present to you. We present to all sorts of different community and meeting members to be able to get some feedback. This was kind of the county and state review. When we go through the community planning process, meaning we get feedback from the stakeholders, we draft a plan to what it's going to look like based on the themes and ideas that we received. And that circulates as a draft for 30 days and it's up for public comment. So within those 30 days, the public has the right to come up forward and let us know if there's any revisions or any updates or any information that they need adequately. Then we represent this to our Behavioral Health Advisory Board and moves down to the county where we're at currently right now, where the Board of Supervisor approves the final plan and it goes up to our commission to the state for accountability to make sure that it gets documented at the state level. And I'm going to pass on the torch to Mr. Aaron Garcia. He's our fiscal manager.
Good morning. So for this plan, I'm going to primarily focus on next fiscal year 23-24 for our how we arrived at these numbers. We did use the preliminary governor's proposed budget in January, where they estimated for our CSS funding, which is the community services and supports, which arrives of 76% of our total MHSA funding. The total state allocated amount is roughly $2,985,600,000, of which 0.42% is allocated to Madera County. So that comes to roughly 12.8 million. And we do have leftover or rollover funds from previous year of roughly $5 million. So that's where we arrive at the 17,808,000 for our CSS. And the same formula is used for our prevention and early intervention and our innovation projects. For the 11 million, if we were to run our current program at our last year's plan, we're roughly about $11 million at its current operational function, which leaves roughly $6.3 million of either we can kind of beef up programs, go out to the community more, or new funding for new programs that we can provide to our county. So of the $17.3 million, $452,000, as Maribel mentioned, is for our EHR, electronic health record system. We are moving to a semi-statewide system. So we already allocated funding for that to be able to provide that new service to our community. So 17.8 million for our CSS, for prevention and early intervention, for 4,464,000 is for the average allocation. 1.7 million is for the current base to keep that operational at its current capacity, which leaves about 2.7 million for new funding. And so our new proposed budget for our prevention and early intervention is the 4.4 million. Innovation, we don't typically have rollover funding in there. We currently have one project, which is in the plan, which is our dad's project. We have several in the books right now we're looking at to propose for the new plan. So that is roughly 842,000 available for that. Any questions on the budget?
Any questions from? None. Thank you.
All right, I'll go back to Maribel. Thank you.
So this year, we actually increased our surveys and participations. Last year, we only had about 90 surveys. Well, the last previous 3 years, we had about 90 surveys received. This year, we received 393 surveys. 324 were in English and 69 were in Spanish. It was very important for me, coming from a different department, that when we surveyed our community, we received it from all different aspects. We wanted Chowchilla, Eastern Madera County, city and county residents, and we wanted to make sure that we focus on some of the ethnicity groups that we are underserving so that we can get their feedback directly. It was also important for me to make this a hybrid model, because during this time, there were still people that were hesitant to go out into the public settings or come into a community meeting. So we made sure that this was created an electronic version. It was hand printed out for people to receive if they didn't feel like coming into a group, but we also did virtual and in-person sessions. 25 of those community engagement group meetings were held throughout Madera and Eastern Madera and city of Oakhurst and Chowchilla. Like I mentioned, and we surveyed about 98 in 2020, 125 of the surveys received were client-centered based, meaning there were clients that are currently receiving services with either our substance use division or our mental health division. We had, of course, like any surveys, we want to make sure that we get the data. So by race, we have them by age, we have them by zip code. We noticed that during the next 3 years, we do need to focus a lot of our efforts in the Chowchilla and Eastern Madera area, but that was an increase of about 5 to 6% for both of those locations. locations, meaning in the last previous 3 years, we only had 1 to 2% in those specific cities or regions. So we've done really well this time being, and we hope to increase that in our annual plans. Again, by gender, we have, there were questions that were not asked 3-4 years ago that were asked this time around. That way we have that specific data. What we notice is a series of themes. So I know a lot of our focus is on substance use and alcohol, our youth and student programs, mental health access and services. A lot of other community members mentioned that they didn't know how to access our services. They weren't aware about our access and crisis line or that we even existed. Increase in prevention, education, and outreach services, meaning they want us to go into their communities, they want us to go into their homes, they want us to be able to go into the school sites. And again, an increase in workforce and staffing capacity. We noticed a lot especially in the very remote areas, that they were saying there's not enough staff to come out to see us, or not enough staff at your facility. So we want to see an increase of that, or maybe extended hours. So that's a main focus for us these next 3 years. And then number 6, homelessness. They believe that access to care, access to services, access to resources is a right, something that we should take in consideration. And that kind of concludes with the housing resources as well. It kind of ties into it. So our recommended funding priorities for these next 3 years is substance use, expand services to help recovery and prevention, expand our youth and student programs. This is expansion of community wellness centers and services, also expansion of staff, but a lot more school-based activities. That way we can hit the younger generation. We are currently doing a lot of pilot projects to be able to make them successfully part of this plan. Access and services to mental health with more marketing and branding. We are currently, I'm not too sure if our Chowchilla residents have seen, but we currently have a billboard off of 152 and 99 that talks about mental health, and it has our contact and access information. So feel free to take a quick photo and show us. Prevention, education, and outreach, expand our services, the staff capacity. We had a really small team of 2 staff members. We have increased it to 3. We're looking forward to increasing that to much more and co-locating those staff at different regional offices. That kind of ties into the workforce and staffing capacity. And of course, our homeless and housing resourcing, expanding housing to our homeless population, letting them know in outreach before they become homeless, and getting that access to services and resources that are here in this county. I just wanted to give you a quick glimpse. You'll find this in the actual PowerPoint presentation that's attached to the agenda item, but you'll also find it in our plan. These are some of the questions that we had. We had 13 questions given to our county members or stakeholders. And the number 1 question was, what are the most important mental or substance use issues in the community? And as you can see, 309 of those results were alcohol and drug abuse. So they currently see that there's a need for those services and for us to provide adequate tools, resources, access to individuals with substance use. And then what are the greatest needs of mental health or substance use system, services to promote recovery and prevent relapse in drug and alcohol. So again, substance use becomes that big top theme for the next 3 years. And we have a couple of other questions. I'll probably just read one of them. Number 6, what types of mental health or substance use services or programs would best serve your community? The community voiced out food, clothing, and affordable housing services. These are people that are, clients and non-clients that basically said this is what we need more in this county. And then our innovation projects, like Erin mentioned, we currently only have 1. These are during the community planning process, we were asked, the community members and stakeholders, to provide us feedback as to what would they like to see. And it could be as simple as, we would like you to have a mobile unit, or maybe we want you to have a booth at this location consistently, or we want this project to come into Madera County because we've seen it work really well in Riverside or in Monterey County. Those are the innovation programs that we're kind of looking for, but we're also looking for something outside of the box. It could be as simple as, connecting with faith-based organizations, or maybe making that direct connection. That's the point of the program, is to be able to be innovative. So we're looking for those different creative, or it could be technology based. It could mean bring iPads into the department, or purchase non-flip phones anymore. Get a smartphone instead of a flip phone. I feel bad for mosquito maintenance. That was a long time ago. But they still work. And the current project that we have in innovation is called Dad's Project, and this is a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder program. So their main focus is to serve young fathers if they're going through postpartum depression or PSTD or any kind of anxiety disorder. What they do is they go into the community. They currently work with CalSafe and they work with some of our local schools to be able to get the targeted population that they're targeting. This program is based on the data that was provided to us by the contractor. It could be potentially still used as a program provider for the next 3 years, but it also comes up to, to the table. Do we want to continue the service? Has it been successful? And that's what innovation projects basically do. Is it's like a quick pilot run. And then if it is proven successful based on the data that we receive, then we go ahead and implement it. And I call it as we eat it as one of our programs and continue to provide that service on the long run. During that process, we had a community period and we provided, this is a form that we have to show to the state and show to the committee so that they have access to submitting that information. It was very simple, but we had to educate the community of how to fill it out. That way we can get their community input. And that concludes my presentation. And now it's time for questions.
Any questions?
No, I just have a comment.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Connie and staff. This is the second time I've heard this presentation. Very thorough. I just want to commend your staff for the public process that you guys engaged in to go from 90 people responding to 393, I think it was. It's that's a good feat, and it really truly provides a report that's reflective of our community. So that's really going to be really helpful. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. We want to go for 1,000. That's my goal. Nice.
And I see you doing that next time around. So
Any
And
pub-
I do want to give the credit to our team for Mirabel, just the dynamo. I know I have Andrea here, Martinez, and Tisha, who's our new, but everybody worked really hard for us. I mean, even I did presentations, several of us did presentations because we really wanted to be out in the community. I think the pandemic affected it the last time as well, but we are very proud. We are going to shoot for 1,000 as long as I'm here.
Any public comment on this item? We have one online, and so go ahead.
Yeah, this is John Pero. Question, I was looking at your 5 components of the MHSA and it said community services support. CSS provides direct services to individuals with severe mental illness using a client-centered approach. Oh, I'm sorry. Turn that thing off. Anyway, shoot, I'm sorry. So sorry. My question was this. How does that apply to the homelessness? And because you said severe mental illness, can you turn that off?
Hi.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. You're fine. So
Yeah.
yeah, so a big.
Okay,
portion-
okay. Let me finish the question. So one of the things I know, like with the self-help enterprise, they have to take a certain amount of mental illness and so forth. My question is this: how do you force? I know technically you can't force it, but when you deal with the homelessness, how do you? Can you require these people to take medication, and how do they stay on it? And because the bottom line is, unless there's accountability, we're not going to deal with this homeless thing. They've got to have skin in the game. And so I'm just curious how this program works with the homelessness, especially around the mental illness and the drug abuse, and what kind of leverage do you have and how do you work with that? And excuse me for that phone ring, and I couldn't stop that.
Hi, this is Connie Moreno-Palacio, your director here at Behavioral Health. So first of all, we do use these funds pretty heavily to house our homeless who are our clients. So we do not have many difficulties for those folks who are in our treatment system. We cannot force anyone to get any of our treatment unless they're hospitalized on what is called a 72-hour hold or 5150. We have staff who are very experienced in working with our homeless population. And also we have peers, we have people with lived experience that help us engage folks into treatment, be it an evaluation, be it therapy, be it medication. So we don't have many issues with it, but the ones that we do have difficulty, we do engage them with our peers and our family partners to get them into treatment.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, we'll get back to the board and this was for approval.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Let's vote.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras.
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh.
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley.
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes,
Vote passes 5-0.
thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item 6E.
6E, County Administration Department, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 22-214 in the amount of $550,000 derived from general fund fund balances to special payments professional and specialized services and county council professional and specialized services for fiscal year 2022-2023. 4 votes are required.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jessica Leon, County Administration. So the item before you is a budget adjustment to increase appropriations for our special payments budget. And that there is mainly includes an adjustment for the actual cost of contracted security services. And that is in the amount increasing that specific special payments budget an additional $300,000. And then increasing the county council budget in the amount of $250,000. And that increase is mainly due to the rate increase approved by your board on December 20th, 2022, and an increase in cost associated with the public records request that we've experienced. So with that, we are available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none,
Chair,
pick
can
it
I
up.
get a quick clarification?
Go ahead.
Can you touch again on the PRA requests and how that's affecting us in our budgets?
Yeah, and actually, I think our county council or Darren might have a little bit more information on that.
Thank you.
Morning, Darren McCandless, County Administration. We've seen an increase, fairly significant increase over the last few years with respect to the volume of public records requests coming into the county and the amount of legal work required. I know County Council can touch on this a little bit more, but more and more the trend is the Public Records Act is used as a sort of a discovery tool by plaintiffs bar. So for instance, in fiscal year 1920, total cost of work done for public records requests was $125,000. This year, we're expecting it to be around $300,000. This just seems to be a trend that we're seeing in litigation most.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board, Regina Garza, your county council. So record requests have always been popular. However, they have become more increased, especially during COVID, when the courts were closed and litigation really came to a standstill. So it's used as a tool in front of discovery and often to decide whether to litigate against a county or not. So we've always seen PRAs. The county in and of itself doesn't have a policy per se that it has to go through the county council's office. But over the years, that has become available for staff to use our office when needed, especially when they're voluminous and we have to use information technology department support and help to gather that information. Another impact is there's never a reimbursement, penny by penny, dollar by dollar with record requests. We can ask folks, the law hasn't come up to speed with the time. A lot of this information is now electronic, and what the law allows you to get reimbursement for, and a very minimal reimbursement, $1 for the first page, I think it's 10 cents thereafter, is just the time it takes staff to stand in front of the copier and go, that time and that expense, and that is not even how it's gathered and distributed anymore. So even the minimal reimbursements that you could get, and then also the last thing I'll say about record requests and why this county might take them as serious as they do, besides it being the law, is that you don't get 2 bites of the apples with record requests. We have a current litigation under the PRA. We've defended successfully one in the past. is if you don't do it right and you get litigated against, it's automatic attorney's fees and costs if they found you to be unreasonable in your response or to be withholding public records, which we tell the team, most of what you do is public. And so that's a part of the cost, I think, overall in general. We're working with administration to try to bring that down and maybe train and push that out to departments a bit more, which will cost money to do. Yeah, so a little bit more. I hope that helps answer the question. Available to answer any additional questions.
It does. Just one follow-up question. Do you have any numbers on the number of requests that have been submitted? You referenced 2019, or Darren did, that 125, and this year we're looking closer to 300. How many requests are we receiving? You know, or
I will by staff reports.
okay.
I mean, if it matters for this particular item and a vote, I'd say suggest that we take a break if you want me to find out generally what we're looking at in, I don't know, 2023. We keep files of each and every one, but they come in, I would say daily. Record requests come in daily.
Yeah, I don't know that it's pertinent to this item, but just a curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, any public comment on this item? Anyone online?
Nobody online.
The
Move to approve.
okay,
Second.
motion made in second. Let's vote.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6F.
6F, County Administration Department, discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution authorizing the county administrative officer or designee to issue a contribution in the amount of $8,000 to Yosemite Unified School District for its 2023 Summer Community Swim Program.
Okay, any, go ahead.
Good morning, once again, Jessica Leon, County Administration. So this is a resolution. County Administration did receive a request from Yosemite Unified and for the county to provide assistance to the school district for a summer pool program. They unfortunately do not have assistance anywhere else, as there is no city or anything like that. So they do reach out to the county. So with that, we're available for any questions.
Okay. Any questions?
I do. What's
Go ahead.
entailed in this swim program? There's lots of unincorporated areas in this county that like these types of things.
Yeah, so some of the things that they listed in here as far as, what the program would include was such things as like the aqua fitness classes, swimming lessons for all ages and ability levels. And in essence, it would be to not have the full cost be the responsibility of those that were interested in being part of the program. There would still be a cost, is my understanding. It would just be a much reduced cost. And it would be for the pool and pretty much for all of the maintenance and all of those items.
And I've had, as you might imagine, a little involvement with the development of this item, as well as the program over at YHS. And what I'll let you know is that there is kind of a cooperation between Yosemite Unified as well as Bass Lake Unified, which serves most of the mountain communities up there. We've also working with our Mountain Area Youth Organization to really provide this service to our low-income youth at basically no cost. But adults and other folks, there would be some share of cost with it. Overall, I think it's a great program for the mountain area. I know there's a lot of folks that are interested in utilizing it. We had some concerns last year. But more than anything, I just want to thank the board for their consideration on this item.
Chairman, if I may, and it's just one of those things where it's okay. We're offering this to a certain segment of the county, and where because there, like I said, there's lots of unincorporated areas of this county that could use a lot of assistance in a lot of different areas. And this is coming out of the general fund.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd just like to follow up on Supervisor Wamhoff. I think it's a it's a great thing to be able to participate in. I'm just looking at it, is this setting a precedence? Because I can see, well, here we've got this and let's say Madera Unified said, hey, county, can you kick in X number of dollars for a program? And to me, it's kind of a slippery slope in terms of, the participation. Now, we're in a city and certainly MUSD has the city of Madera to fall back on as well. But, I'm not sure that we have a policy set up for this sort of thing at this point. And again, I think it's a great thing. And I think it's great, teaching kids to swim and exercise and so forth. And participating with other organizations. I'm just thinking it'd be nice to maybe develop a policy of sorts, moving forward. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, Golden Valley Unified is all incorporated, Schwaneke as well. And I think without a policy, it is kind of one of those things where, well, are we going to do the exact same thing next year? And if other organizations or school districts want to come forward and saying, well, you did that over there, why wouldn't you do something similar over here? I think we're venturing down a road that will need probably some policy.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think in the long run, I see a lot of hands in the end of this policy, a lot of hands coming out. And I know Chowchilla has a Red Fins program. They work that heavily, and it's always been supported by the community. We do fundraisers. They do fundraisers. They reached out to me. I supported it. I think that's something that communities need to do. But especially, when you look at a limited, the limited general fund budget that we have, and especially this year, it's getting slimmer and slimmer. I think I see a lot of hands that we're not going to be able to put anything in. Ultimately, so it just problematic at this. Anyway,
Just
any other questions?
Point
Yeah.
of clarification for the board. I hope that everybody does understand that there already are, I believe, I could stand corrected on this, but free pool services in the city of Madera as well as the city of Chowchilla. So these are, services that are already offered by our neighboring municipalities, is my understanding. Again, I could be corrected on that, but these are services that are available in the city of Chowchilla as well as the city of Madera. So I want to make that clarification.
And I would say I'm not against, this particular item in general. It's more of a policy decision as far as what are our guidelines as far as these types of services.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I can chime in.
Go ahead.
We don't get requests like this very often, and the other surrounding jurisdictions do have these programs. I would hate to not serve, or this is within our purview that we have the ability to help this school district and some of these underserved kids up in the mountains. So I agree that we need to establish a policy, but I'd like to move forward on providing the funding because it's right around the corner. I think we can do both and find that happy medium, but I would support providing the funding for these kids up the hill.
Just one last quick question. Is it possible, rather than using general fund dollars, that it could be taken out of, I think there's some money in our Parks and Recreation developer fees. Is that possible?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
It's not for, that isn't for programs. I think that's more for facilities. You did, just so for the board's recollection, you did fund this program last year. To our knowledge, we haven't received any other requests other than this one here that you're considering today, and staff would be happy to get a policy together on these kind of things. We had to do something similar when I was on the CCP as it related to donations to nonprofits.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with my comments. I didn't want to sound like I'm I don't care. I do care. I think it's important that kids have access to these kind of things. One of the things that popped into my mind was that I sit on the RHA and they have opportunities they give grants through the Regional Health Authority for programs similar to this, very similar to this. Kids be involved in an outdoor activity that creates good health for them. And so it's a direct nexus to things like that. So as we look at the policy surrounding what we might do with others in the future, we need to take into consideration what other things are available and how we might steer people in that direction, or, you know, still help with these programs in another way. Okay, any public comment on this item? Anyone
None.
online?
None
Okay.
online.
Okay, if not, I'll bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'm willing to make a motion for approval with the understanding that we will be working on a policy moving forward regarding requests of this sort.
And I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Let's vote.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Chairman Rogers?
Yes,
Vote passes 5-0.
that was a good compromise. Well stated, sir. Good fight. Thank you. All right, 6G.
6G, Community and Economic Development Department, Planning Division, discussion and direction in relation to seeking consultant services to assist determining impacts of short-term rental homes and supply of residential housing.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Matt Treber, Chief of Development Services, Jamie Bax, CED Director with me as well. So this item just simply seeks direction and authorization from the board to prepare a request for proposal, request for qualifications to go out and look to select a firm to come in and assist in reviewing comprehensively the short-term vacation rental impacts of the county. I do have some, numbers, and I want to thank our Treasurer Tax Collector Tracy Kennedy and her assistance on this. This will be obviously a public process if ultimately we bring forward a contract and a proposal, and the board would grant that contract. This will be a significant public outreach effort. We have approximately 807 short-term vacation rentals that are registered and paying TOT through the county currently. That does equate to approximately 3% of our housing stock in that. So not a significant percent, but that doesn't exactly tell a full, true, correct story when you look at geographic locations and where those 800 plus are primarily within Eastern Madera County and in our resort communities. So this is an effort. Mariposa County has recently also gone through this. And so we're just simply seeking direction from the board to go out with an RFP, RFQ. Obviously, before any contracts are done, that would come before this board to issue any contracts for that work, to look at the impacts of short-term vacation rentals and different options. So a comprehensive overview. With that, I'm available for any questions the board has.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I
Yeah.
have a question. Thank you, Matt, for the introduction. It would be interesting to find out, what the impacts are in terms of short-term rentals and et cetera. But what are we hoping to achieve besides getting information? Let's say we find that, yes, short-term rental homes and the supply of residential housing is impacting residential housing, or we find out, no, it's not. I mean, what's the next step? What's our ultimate goal? What are we attempting to achieve? Are we looking to limit the number of short-term rentals? Are we looking, what's the goal?
Yeah, so that's an excellent point. And I think, the effort and the study would look at that, right? And Do we have an impact? What is that impact, right? And regardless of a kind of an overarching review of all of those vacation rentals that exist, their locations, but the impact on the local and the ability for affordable rents and long-term rents and month-to-month rents, and the, impacts, if there are, to service levels of the county, and how to ensure that we are capturing the cost that these vacation rentals, burden potentially the county, right? Obviously, the TOT collection that plays into and brings in a significant amount of dollars. But we get a lot of complaints. We are discussing with our franchise haulers in the back, or were previously before coming in here, bear trash issues and rodent, and folks leave, and most of these are vacation rentals, and they leave their trash on Wednesdays and the trash comes on Monday. And we've got trash strewn all over those. So how do we go about looking at placing inspection requirements potentially, and the costs associated with that work that would come to ensure that we aren't impacting our neighborhoods throughout the county?
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with short-term rentals is enforcing code as far as occupancy numbers. And if you get, I don't know, 10 people in a house that should only have five or two or whatever, you've doubled the problem. And I think it's far beyond that in some cases. People renting and having a party, and they leave behind a huge mess. And it doesn't just impact the owner of the property, it impacts the entire neighborhood, it impacts the county services. There are law enforcement issues that come with that. So it becomes a general fund problem in some respects. So yeah, a lot of those things need to be ferreted out and addressed. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
what's the estimated cost of this RFP?
The cost to prepare the RFP will be fairly minimal. It's just amount of staff time. And we've already reached out to some of our partners. Jamie and I are both part of listservs statewide that look at this. So we have, we'll be pulling some resources from our partner agencies and different counties of similar, build outs and unit numbers and those things, like Mariposa, some of our surrounding, and pulling together. So the cost initially, very minimal, just staff time to prepare that RFP and get it out there to the consultant world. The big cost will come, and we'll be analyzing that, right? And that will be a contract before this board for consideration.
And then where
right?
the
That
dollars would come from would be determined at that point.
Right, it'll
Maybe-
lay out where those dollars are, it'll lay out exactly to Supervisor Poitras's kind of initial questions. What's the goal, right? It'd lay out a detailed scope of work, an analysis that would go into that for the board's consideration at that time.
Do we have any estimation as far as cost for this?
For the study,
For the study?
I would estimate you're in north of 100, probably south of 200,000 potentially. But again, that is a wag. But that's typically what I would anticipate is you're going to be in the $100,000 to $200,000 range. But we don't know, right? And it comes with how much of scope we want to put in and how much of that effort. And so, the first step is that RFP, RFQ process, and then we can certainly negotiate based on that cost if the budget simply isn't there, right? So.
Are you looking at possibly using TOT dollars to figure this out?
So I think that's probably a broader discussion with some other folks who aren't necessarily, but it's something that we could look at. And again, I won't bring a contract for consideration before the board without identifying exactly where that funding for that contract cost would come from.
I generally think that there should be a nexus between the funding and the project in general. So I think that's a good policy to think about. Just thought I'd throw that out there for consideration. I don't know, what the ins and outs of doing that are for the TOT and where that's being used all specifically at this point, so that would be a subject of discussion. Okay, any
Sure, I
comments
just had
from
a
the public
quick-
on this?
quick
Go
comment,
ahead.
Actually,
Go ahead.
and it's kind of building off of, I think what my colleagues were saying here. And the key word that I'm looking at in this item is the supply. And I think my concerns around vacation rentals are certainly far beyond the supply of housing. While it is a concern, and there is some correlation there, I'm more concerned with the impacts of vacation rentals on neighbors and their property rights, right? And we have a lot of discussion about property rights and one's rights to be able to do a vacation rental at their own home. But when those rights start to impinge upon their neighbors, that's where I think the county has an obligation to step in. Beyond that, I'm really curious to know if the study might be able to help us develop an action plan on how we might capture more of these vacation rentals. We've had conversations about this in the past, had them with Tracy as well. While she has 800 registered, if you talk to the folks over at the Visitors Bureau, there's as many as 1,500. And of course, that's a big discrepancy in the amount of houses that are being utilized for that purpose, and capturing those that are not registered, I think would be a great thing for the county. So just hoping, that if we are going to do this study, that it's not so narrow that we're missing out on these other points of concern.
Want to think too, what in conjunction with that, if a person is flaunting the law and that not paying their fair share of the TOT, there should be a substantial penalty if we find that they're not doing that. And it should be substantial, make it worth their while to do it. 3 times the amount or something charged otherwise.
Certainly wouldn't disagree with that at all, right? And so if the study, to Supervisor McCauley's point, right, looks at a registration process, for example, right? And these individuals, I do believe the majority of folks are probably good operators and doing exactly what they do, and are trying their best and being good neighbors, right? But you do have a handful that we do get complaints on a regular basis. And so, that's, if we work through and the study complies and has a registration and annual cost, and we have operators that are continually to be code enforcement issues or violators, right, then that is certainly something that you could look to rescind and or not grant moving forward. But again, that would be ferreted out and laid out in a protocol as a part of this public outreach and study that will come.
Right. I think that when you consider that we have other abatement in code enforcement where we attach a significant penalty to someone's property, and we generally get compliance in time. Sometimes it takes a while, but in time we get compliance with and that's only fair to the general public. As Bobby's adequately stated, the idea is that you're hindering somebody else's life. Your rights suddenly have encroached on someone else's rights to live their life in peace and quiet and safety and trash free and all those kind of things. But so I have no compunction about putting stiff enforcement penalties on people who don't want to, live within the rules that affect other people. Definitely. Yeah.
Matt, I have a question. Have you or anybody on the, I don't know if you want to call it the team or whoever from within the departments, have you looked at what other jurisdictions have, if they have some type of similar document? Is it something that the county staff can put together, like an analyst, or as opposed to going through a consultant?
So we have looked at some other agencies. I will tell you what we've discovered is most of them are going through kind of an RFP. Again, Mariposa County just issued that. They just entered into a contract with a firm last year. It is certainly something that we could do. Again, my recommendation would be let's float that RFQ out. If it's a very high astronomical cost at that point, right, then we would certainly, pivot and look at something different. If it wasn't something that was economically feasible at that time. So we can continually to do that and look at that. Certainly want to ensure that we're capturing all of those units that are on the books and being rented, and that we're capturing, and we're not seeing that TOT not being done as required from those units. That is certainly an option if it's the board's will to not go this route. We can certainly take a different approach.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just add that I've probably reviewed about 30 ordinances from San Diego all the way to Colorado, and they all range, in restrictions. And I think it would be really important to get the community's input on this. I know there's a lot of varying opinions, specifically up in the mountain area. And they may not come to a consensus, but I think it's important to get that information nonetheless. So.
Okay, did I already ask for public comment? Any public comment on this item?
Nobody online.
Okay, bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Let's vote.
Supervisor Wamha,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6H.
6H. Human Resources Department, Social Services Department. Discussion and consideration of amendment to classification plan. Amendment of the classification plan to add the class of Senior Staff Services Manager. Set the salary for the classification for Senior Staff Services Manager at a range of $341, $8,094.06 to $9,838.39 per month. Designate the classification of Senior Staff Services Manager as overtime exempt pursuant to the Fair Labor Standards Act. Direct the Department of Human Resources to amend the position allocation resolution by removing the fiscal manager position or key 07510 and replacing it with the Senior Staff Services Manager position. Discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution amending the salary and fringe benefits schedule to add Senior Staff Services Manager to classified service salary schedule. Discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution amending the fiscal year 2022-2023 schedule of position allocations for the County Department of Social Services.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Roman Noriega, Human Resources. As the chief clerk kindly read into the record, the item before you is to amend DSS's position allocation to include the new classification of Senior Staff Services Manager and to add the Senior Staff Services Manager classification to our salary resolution. Our DSS Director, Deborah Martinez, is here to answer any operational questions you might have.
Any questions?
I'll move to
Go
approve.
ahead.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion made.
I'll second.
Motion made in second. Any public comment on this item?
Nobody online.
Let's vote.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamha?
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Chairman Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Any pending legislation?
None that I'm aware of, Chair.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board, Jared, Public Works. Just wanted to touch real quick on something, not necessarily pending legislation at this point, but as some of you may be aware, the Little Hoover Commission has released their draft report on 1383 implementation. I had a chance to make some comments during that meeting this last month. So we're waiting for that final report to come out. I'm hoping that once it's published, we'll be able to share that. Obviously, there's some recommendations in there that talk about putting some pauses on things and also some exemption for some of the rural counties. So just wanted to make that note because that will probably turn into some legislative efforts once that report gets released and presented to the governor and the legislature. So just thought I'd bring that up.
Jared, real quick, how many counties participated in that investigation or review and provided comment? I guess during their presentation.
So I know that there was a lot of information shared for many of the counties through RCRC, sort of representing all of them. But I was able to testify at one of the hearings, I think it was the second hearing in that process, and share a little about the rural counties. And then in the comment section or the comment time during this last board, or excuse me, the commission meeting to consider the report, it was pretty limited to comments. I was able to comment. RCRC was also able to comment. I think we were the only two that commented related to rural counties. But again, there's been a lot of information that RCRC has provided to the Little Hoover Commission throughout this process to help them understand the differences between rural versus urban counties and how this is affecting us. So,
But again, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, we were the only county that was there like in person, not through RCRC. Just
yeah, I mean, I assume there was others that were listening or participating, but in terms of comments, yeah, I was asked to share at one of the hearings and then also able to comment at the last meeting. So,
okay, thanks again, Jared.
Thank you. Good
He
job.
only reached out to the best.
Okay, no pending legislation, supervisors and staff reports. Supervisor McCauley.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring it up earlier, although it did spark my memory on it, but Supervisor Wheeler, former Supervisor Wheeler, will be the Grand Marshal at the North Fork Loggers Jamboree this year. So I just wanted to make that announcement really quick. So if anybody's interested in coming up, we're going to do a parade on the 1st, and then of course amateur competitions on the 1st, and then our professional day will be on the 2nd. So yeah, come up and join us.
Thank you. Supervisor Portress.
Nothing to report.
Okay, I attended the Regional Health Authority and the Chowchilla Groundwater Sustainability Aid. Pleasure.
Last week, got to participate and dress up like a firefighter, along with a couple of my colleagues, and they even let me light stuff on fire. So that was pretty exciting. The prescribed burn along Highway 41 between Avenues 15 and Road 200. They have traditionally had approximately 12 fires per year. They started the prescribed burn about 5 years ago, and ever since then, they have had no fires. And
Excellent.
so they are marking this prescribed burn as one of the most successful in the state.
Supervisor.
Okay.
Ross?
Uh,
you should go.
That's right. Yesterday did a kickoff video. I guess we're posting it maybe today or tomorrow, not sure, but it's a traffic enforcement kickoff for the summer. And we had our Sheriff Tyson Pogue and CHP Lieutenant Commander Ian Holguin. And it was an awareness campaign that we're going to be out and about, making sure people slow down, put their cell phones down, put their seatbelts on, and not drinking and driving. There's far too often many of our residents are seriously injured or killed along our roadways due to those things I just mentioned.
My
So
wife and I saw you out there.
you did.
Passed by you.
There you go. All right.
Yeah. No.
You were in the Corvette speeding by.
No. I failed to mention one thing that I did do this last week, and that was I went to Friant Dam and spoke with Mr. Kavanaugh, the manager of the facility there. And it was quite amazing to see 10,000 cubic feet per second come out of those pipes. To put that in perspective, that's 10,000 basketballs a second. But that's an acre foot of water every 4.34 seconds and 20,000 acre foot hours. So when you put that in all in perspective, over the course of this season, there'll be a column of water, the width and length of Bulldog Stadium turned on its side and run from sea to shining sea and out past into the. That's a lot of water. And something's got to happen where we put that water, that extra water, right places. And it's happening in our county right now, and we're trying. But Sacramento's got to get with us on the program. Thank you. Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yep, thanks. I just want to thank CAL FIRE and Madera County Fire for inviting us to the prescribed burn. It was a great experience. I stayed away from Jordan because I knew he was excited to light the torch. But I want to thank them for all the work that they do. Also tonight, we are hosting a community meeting over at the Parksdale Village, and we'll get some community input on the budget process. I want to thank Jessica Leon from administration for graciously participating in tonight's meeting. Not only will she provide the information, but she'll also provide it in Spanish for our participants. So thank you in advance for doing that. And thank you, Jay, and the staff for lending her to us. We're excited to have her out there. And then I just want to mention that yesterday I participated on a panel interview with United Way Board of Directors. That's another hat that I get to wear as part of their board. And back in 2017, when I was a staffer here, I attended with Supervisor Rodriguez a backpack giveaway over at MLK School. And it was part of a program that was being piloted at the time for these young kids to participate in. And they got to talk about what be bold means and what living united means to them. And so they wrote these essays. And then along the years, they've continued to participate in this program, some of them. They've continued to participate in this program and what it means to be bold and what it means to be united. And tomorrow, several of them will be graduating from high school. And 3 of the finalists were interviewed yesterday. One of them will get a full ride scholarship to Fresno State. All 3 young ladies, if I may add, very impressive. Grade point averages just beyond the 4.0. Just really lucky to have that talent, and their goals are to stay within the community. They all want to go into the nursing program at Fresno State. So we're just really excited. It was such an honor to be a part of that panel, and you know, they're all, I don't want to give it away who's getting the scholarships, but I'm just really excited, really proud of those students. That's my report.
Okay, CAO.
Nothing to report, Chairman.
No report, Chair. Thank you.
Clerk?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay, with this meeting is adjourned.
When would you like to have agenda review?
Yeah, we can do that.
Keep it at 2.
Want to have it after lunch or before? It's up to you guys. Jay, what do you think? You choose.